Welcome to our newest episode of the SXA tutorials. Today we're gonna create our services teaser, a new component within our website.
So if we think back of where we are about to create all the components that we need for the homepage, and we have created a header and a footer already, and we have also created a text teaser. So this time we are talking about the services teaser, which you can find here, like in that red square and or red box. And if we take a look on the design, so it contains a headline basically and a description, and then it has a couple of teasering elements which are teasering sub pages of the services area, so that the company can give more information about what services they provide. So each service teaser contains an image and another headline and a description, and the whole tile is also linkable. If we take a look on the mobile device or mobile way how that looks, we also find the headline and the description of the overall component, but also then all the different teasers stacked underneath each other. So just having in mind the content architecture that we showed also in the first episode, we have this services area here, which contains then all the services detail pages, so describing then later on all the services that the company provides with web design, web development, and whatsoever. And we're planning to put all this information, all the teasering information on the page itself, so that this can be teasered automatically then in this component. So what we're going to do in our demo is we're creating two page templates, one for the overview page and one for the detailed page. Both will inherit from the page template itself. So this brings or provides us certain functionality that we need to utilize all the SXA functionalities to make it work, for example, with page and partial designs and all that. On the service detail page, we will put all the teaser information. And last but not least, we create then the rendering with a known data source that on the one hand has the title and the description, but also references all the detail pages to teaser the information as it's shown here in that little screenshot.
Yeah, and just to add, I think it's something that you mentioned already, but if you are going to create your own pages within SXA, you will 9 out of 10 times you'll always inherit from the standard page that SXA offers you, because that will indeed give you a lot of functionality out of the box. That page template itself inherits from some system SXA templates, which will give you all the editing and design capabilities that SXA offers you. So you won't be starting from scratch creating your new template. You'll always inherit from an existing SXA template.
Yeah, absolutely. So first we create the templates, and therefore we go into templates and project and SXA tutorial. So here here are all our page templates installed when we installed our tenant, which is the SXA tutorial tenant, and we get automatically by SXA a homepage template and a page template. So as we are only working with one tenant, we can, or it would be best practice to directly create the new page template for our services overview and the service detail page here. However, if you have several tenants that you want to use within your installation, and you also want to use that service feature across your tenants, so it's not just for that one tenant created, then it would also make sense to put it into your feature folder of the SXA tutorial, and then maybe for the feature of services, and then create a tenant module that installs your page templates on tenant creation, and also then assigns the page template as a base template to the service overview and service detail page. So let's go further. New page template, services. Templates. So we make the page template of our SXA tutorial folder a base template, because with this page template we get a couple of functionality that we want to use on our page template. So it brings all the meta tagging, it brings all the social media tagging with the Open Graph tags or Twitter tags, and much more functionality, also assigning then later on page designs to our template, and all that is bound to the page template. So that's why we have to, so whenever we create a page template, we have to assign the page template to the base as a base template.
Yeah, and at the same time, you're also making sure that with any future upgrades of SXA, you can already immediately benefit from those improvements as well.
Yeah. So let's create that template. Here we go, and let's directly also create the other template for services detail. Also select the page template from project. Okay. So our SXA overview template doesn't require any fields, but our services detail does. So let's create here a teaser section and call the first field teaser headline. Then teaser description and teaser image. And we make this, of course, an image field. And that should be it. No, let's also limit the source for that field. So we are using here a query token. So the source field supports queries, and SXA introduces query tokens to limit our data sources. So we want to make sure that wherever this template is used, it's always within the media library context of our site. So therefore, we can use the out-of-the-box $site media token. So no matter where this template is used, it will always refer to the site context and its media library folder. That should be it. And we also assign icons. So for the services detail, we take this little plus here, and for the services overview, we take the other ones. So let's create also the standard values to assign the insert options for our services overview page. So on the standard values, we assign our services overview template, services detail template. And we do not need redirects here, and probably also pages we do not need. So that should be it, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So then let's create our module for that feature. So in system settings feature, we have already our solution, SXA tutorial, and we are going to create a new module for the services feature. So we use the insert option on the feature folder, as this insert option for creating modules is only available there and not on the subfolders. So we call our feature services, select the module that we want to use, and we will keep all the areas where new folders should be created, because we can clean that up later, and we're not sure where we all will create certain things now. And our module should only install during site setup. So once we create a site, or even later inside context, we want to be able to install our services feature to any of the sites. So that's why we are creating a site setup for our module.
The tenant setup is typically used if you develop components that are used across multiple sites, multiple tenants, different clients, whatsoever. So if you create your own toolbox or something like that, or you're making an SXA implementation for your own product, then you might be willing to use a tenant setup. Otherwise, you would probably can go with a site setup, right?
Mm-hmm. So let's hit proceed. And it's done. So we are going to create our rendering. So therefore, we will choose a different way like last time. So last time we've used the component wizard, and this time we would like to show you an alternative way of doing that, which is the way of cloning an existing rendering. And for this, we will choose the promo component, as this from a data source behavior is closest to what we want to achieve. So what we wanted to achieve is having a dedicated data source per component, which lives in the data folder of the site. So this is the same behavior that the promo component also provides, and that's why this could be a good candidate to clone from. So by just right-clicking the component that we want to clone, in this case promo, we will find a script that is called clone rendering. If we run that script, we go through a little wizard, which allows us to provide a new name, which would be then services. And we can also directly provide a CSS class. Of course, we could change that later, services. And we have to select the module that we just created to put the rendering and all its items that will be created along with it into the right places. So we put everything to our services module and go to the next tab. So in here, it's all about rendering parameters, and we can either inherit from the one that the promo provides, or we create a copy of the promo one, and we are able to also adjust whatever the promo has specifically as rendering parameters. So I usually make a copy of the existing one, and same goes then for the data source. So we could either inherit, which would leave all the fields of the promo component in our template, which we probably do not need later on, and it might mess up the template, and authors are going to ask us later on, like, what are those fields for? And then we have no good answer. So ideally, we make a copy and then later on change whatever is provided along with the copy. And last but not least, we can decide on if we want to use the original MVC view file, which is the one from the promo, so the promo CSHTML, or if we want to create a copy. So we have to provide a path underneath. And if we could also use an existing view, which we've created maybe earlier, some kind of generic view, and then we also would have to provide here a path to that existing view. But in this case, we're only going to copy the promo view and just call it services view. So I think we should be good to go.
Yep.
Let's proceed.
Yeah, and I think the big difference, if you look at the thing that we did previously using the component wizard versus the cloning of a component, is that cloning a component does require you to have a bit of knowledge of the SXA component. So which component comes closest to what you are trying to solve, or you're trying to build. So I don't think there's the one is better than the other. It's just a different approach, and the one requires a bit more knowledge of SXA than the other one.
Yeah. So our rendering has been created exactly under the path that we've created with a module, and we can see that the data source location has been set. So there is now also a template, and we will see that in a second, called services folder. And whenever we create a services folder under the data folder of our site, then there will be all the data sources that we need for our rendering. And it will use as a data source this template called services, which has also been created for us. And I think that's already what we could see. And we have then the CSS class that we mentioned earlier is also here. So if we have certain reasons to change that, just go to the rendering item and change it here. And also we have the view path here. So this we could also change later on if we have a different view or a different path to our view that we need to map here. So our rendering looks fine. Let's go to the templates. So in the services, we find now on the one hand, the rendering parameters template, and we also find the services folder and the services template together with the 2 page templates that we've created before. So taking a look at the services template, we see now that the section and the fields have been copied from promo, which we are not using because it's just called promo. So we will create now something called services and call that, I think it makes sense to delete all of them because they might contain some additional information that we would have to change then also later on. So let's just get rid of all of them.
Yeah, things like the author, the title, where the fields being shown, or multilingual titles or whatsoever.
Yes, and now let's provide the services headline, a services description, and a services, no, that's I think all we need. But we also need a reference field for the different pages.
Yeah, so that will be the field that will show
so
all
what
those
do we
sub-items.
Take here? Could be a multi-list.
Yeah, that's the one that I would probably choose. At least it stores the items by ID, right?
Yeah, and also the multi-list we should now limit to just our certain page templates. So if you don't know the exact query that you need to write here, you can also always go back to your rendering and copy one of the queries stated here and change the template name later on. So let's just copy it here into the template query, and our template is just called services. So and it doesn't come from, that's actually not correct, right? It would be services detail.
Yeah.
And it will be found under home. So now the multi-list will show all the services service detail pages. Again, a typo here. All the service detail pages that it will find under our site node and then under the home. So just having all the content. So that's all about the template. And we've cloned the rendering. Now it's about our rendering variant.
Yeah, we also want to show something, right?
Exactly. So the rendering variant we will create in the branch templates because we want to install the whole feature later on using our module, and therefore the template of the rendering variant needs to be copied together with that. So that has been created for us partially by copying the promo component. So let's just take a look here. We have here the default services variant, and we can see that this pretty much looks like a promo component, and we will just remove all the icons from here because we don't need this and start freshly from the default variant definition. So first we want to show our services headline. From our template. So we use the field renderer that maps later on to our data source template, and we want to show our service description.
Is it service or services?
That's again the question, right? Let's just recheck that. It's services. makes sense.
For
Good.
both. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, important is just that the field name here has the right name of your template. Otherwise, that wouldn't work. This is the exact mapping. We just have a $name token that provides the item name directly into that field. So if this is different than your field name, that should be totally fine. But the field name field should be exactly mapping, or has to be mapping to your template. So, and now we are going to use the so-called reference renderer, which is, I'm blind, here.
Reference, yeah.
Yeah. So we will map that to the, again, I have to recheck how that field was called. Services, correct. So, and also sorting at last. So the reference renderer is mapping also a field from our template, which in this case is a multi-list field that references other items. And basically what's executed there is some kind of query that queries all my sub items. And underneath this, the reference renderer, I have the ability to render everything from my sub items, or from my referenced items, basically not from sub items, but referenced items. And I can provide the maximum number of results. So if I have referenced, let's say, 8 services pages, but I only want to display 6, and this is, I think, also our case. We just want to display 6 for the moment. I can limit that here. And I could also say how many of the referenced items I want to skip. So if I have, again, if I have 8 service pages referenced, and I always want to show 6 and skip the first 2, then I would just set it up like this, which I think we don't need for the moment. But now we have a reference through the multi-list field of our template to the referenced items. And now we can show now we can build our markup based on the items below. So on the teaser page items. So what we're going to use now is the, I think that was teaser headline of our service detail page. So that's the teaser headline. And we will have the teaser description field. Teaser description. Okay, I will sort it later. Then another field on the teaser image.
Yes.
And
I think that's it, isn't it?
That should be it. We need to link it. So there's one thing missing. We need to link from those tiles, we need to link our sub items. So we need to link to the service detail pages, and therefore we need to wrap the whole tile somehow into a section and make this linkable. So I will just call this now, let's say, column. And I will place all the fields into that. Okay. Yes, I'm sure. Put the headline first. Sort first. And now what I'm doing is I'm using the isLink field of my section renderer and choosing that it should be wrapped. So what is happening with that is that it automatically links the whole section, so the whole div that's wrapped around my fields, which would represent then the whole tile, and it will link it to the item that is represented here, and therefore we have directly a link to the services detail page. And as the let's save it first, and as the reference iterates through all my referenced items, this will be executed here, or this will be rendered per referenced service detail page.
Yeah, so the context is being switched for every iteration of the list. Yeah.
Yeah, So not providing any CSS classes, as we haven't talked to our front-end developer yet. But I think that should be it. And what next? I think we are able to install everything, right? So last thing before we install our feature actually to the site is that we need to double check our module. So under system settings, we've created our new services module in the SXA tutorial. And here it is with the site setup. So we can see that with the rendering creation, or with the cloning of the rendering, we got some actions created here. So the available renderings will be created, then the data source folder, and then also the rendering variants. So let's have a look. So into the location available renderings, which is located here in the presentation, we will install a template called available services renderings. And we definitely have to provide a name here. So we will call that services and save it. So if one of those fields would be missing, like the name or the template or the location, then our module would not completely install and stop at that point where it encountered an issue, but it wouldn't report. So it would just fail on that point.
Yeah, and just to clarify, this specific action, that add available renderings, will essentially just add your component to the toolbox, right?
Yeah, exactly. Worth mentioning, definitely. So for our data items, so in the folder data, where all the data sources go, we will have a template of services folder, and this will be called services. So that's fine. And then the rendering variants will be like under rendering variants, which are located here in presentation, rendering variants. We will have a template created called default services variant, or an item created called default services variant, which is of the branch templates. And we will call it also services. So this contains then all the markup that we've created earlier with the rendering.
Yeah, and just to add as a more or less a best practice, if you do like source lookups, so when you define your templates or whatsoever, you typically use sources that refer to items based on a certain template type. So Sebastian just showed you the services folder, for example. When we use that within our component, if we set the data source location, then we'll search for items based on the template type, the template name. The template name, instead of using the actual names of those items, because people can always change them themselves if they really want to.
Yeah. So last thing we have to do now, as we checked everything, is installing our new module so that we can use our services teaser on our website. So going back to our content in SXA tutorial. So first thing, well, should we create the templates first, or should we install the modules first?
Well, let's install the module. Let's see how it works.
Yeah. So on the side node, we have also scripts that we can run. And the one we want to use is the add site module script, because we want to add our module after site creation. So if we start that script, we will see all the modules that haven't been yet installed to our site, which is only the services module. So we keep that checked and hit the OK button. And now the module makes sure that everything is installed to our site context that we need. So that contains, on the one hand, in the data folder, there should be now a services folder where we can create new services folders or services items. So that has been done. Then we have the available renderings that should contain now a section or like an item called services, which is the case, and our rendering has been mapped here. So this will be available in the toolbox now. And last but not least, in rendering variants, there should be now a services rendering variant definition containing our markup for the services component. So that has been done as well. So this all got installed with our module. So if we create new sites, we can always use this module installation to install our feature to the site. As this refers to, or as this component refers to pages, let's also create those. So the overview page we create now from template. So searching for this template, that's the service overview page, and we call it, let's say, services. Insert. And from here, we should be able to install new service detail pages. That was something like web design or web development. Yes. One more thing that we should do is those pages do not have a page design yet. So let's go to presentation and page designs. So you can see we have created already 2 page designs, one for the home page and a default page design. And the default page design, as well as the home page, contains already header, footer, and the metadata partial designs, so that our general site is set up. But for our new page template, we have to map the template to the page design, and this is what we can do on the page designs node on the presentation below our site. So as we assigned the page template as a base template to our services detail and services overview, it appears here in the drop-down. It wouldn't if you haven't made the page template the base template. So that's a very important point. And now we select those 2 and assign for now the default template. Sorry, the default page design.
Yeah, and just to add, you can also do this using the Experience Editor in the SXA ribbon, right? There's also a button there which allows you to map the page designs to the template.
True. So then let's create, or let's add our services teaser to maybe the services overview page.
Yeah.
Opening that in Experience Editor. That's a pretty wide screen.
There we go.
So we have our services section here in our toolbox, and here's also the rendering. So let's drag and drop this one. It probably asks us to create a data source. Yes, so we create one for the rendering itself. And let's call it just services.
Yep.
Okay. So nothing styled so far, but we have a service headline and we have a service description, but we do not see any of the related services. So let's save this page and go back to Content Editor. So then let's assign our service detail pages. And
oops.
Oh, okay. So seems that the query we've assigned here is not the right one. Let's double check that. And what do we have? Oops, that doesn't work. Okay. So we have $site, which is our site context, home, and then services detail. So I think it makes sense to go for the overview node and then select the underneath items.
Yeah.
And anything else? Maybe there's a slash missing. Try that. Save. Refresh. No, this is just the services node.
Oh, we're getting there.
We're getting there, yes. So let's make this a tree list.
Yeah, which would make sense, right? Since we also have the ability to create different folders within our services data folder.
Yeah. So then refresh. Nope. That looks better.
Yeah, there we go.
Let's assign the 2 pages that we have here and also put some content, or that we could actually do in the experience editor. But let's put some content to the teaser headline. So this is, we should have used a $name token.
Yeah, fair point.
And web development. So let's get back to the page. And we can see that now we have not styled at all, but we have the services headline. We have the services description. So this comes from our data source of the rendering. And then we have the fields with the headline, teaser headline, teaser description, and the teaser image. And same goes for the next one. And it would now create maximum 6 as we set it up like that. Yeah, so it would be now for some styling, but that we do later.
Cool. So we've created our own component, added it to the toolbox, and made sure that it had every requirement necessary.
Cool.